the biggest theme that I get is that people are really locked in, and like Cam Young, canceled his press conference today, and we were like, well, where is Cam Young?
Well, he had to do that photo shoot in the Hamptons. Hopefully he didn't get stuck in traffic on the way back.
Yeah, or he wanted to test out his wrists some more, and maybe that's what was bothering.
Does he have a wrist problem? Maybe.
It'd be speculation on my part.
Okay. All right. Let's see. This is the inside the room stuff I need to know.
But at the bottom of the board, like at the short odds, my interest would go in other areas.
So pick on Ludwig, pick on Cam Young is what I'm getting from you here.
That's two places to start.
At Mayo Experience.
This is the final word on the U.S. Open from Shinnecock Hills. And joining me live from Shinnecock Hills, readtheline.com's own Keith Stewart. What's it like being on Long Island?
Pat, aside from the traffic, which everyone's learning about as a New York, New Jersey, tri-state area resident, I'm used to it. But there's one thing you can never get used to, and that's the wind out here on the east end of Long Island.
So let's dig right into that, because that's really the primary talking point from what I've seen so far early on this week as we get into what play is going to look like. I've been using Windfinder, whether you're using that, windy.com. It really doesn't matter. It looks like it's going to be exceptionally windy, especially on Thursday. I'm seeing gusts up to 40, which doesn't sound optimal for anyone, but that's only for a small period of time. Generally, what you're seeing is between like 18 and 24 sustained, with gusts going higher up to that. But I was texting with Michael Kim a bit, and even from the player comments that I've seen so far is that it feels a lot windier than that when you're actually out there.
A lot of that has to do with the fact that you're halfway between Peconic Bay and the Atlantic Ocean. There's no protection out here. And the golf course sits up actually kind of high. So any of the houses or the trees that are around the golf course, everything kind of bleeds its way down towards the water. So it's really an unprotected surface, kind of at the peak of the hill. And the wind builds up out here, and it's just stronger. It's like a wall of wind. So if you live up there in Canada, where it tends to be a little bit more wide open, so you know what this means. But most people in suburban America, they get 20 miles an hour wind. But yes, that's what it's blowing. But there's homes and trees and all these things that block it. So when they walk outside, take a stroll with their dog or something, they don't feel that level of wind. The wind that's coming across the 11th green or the 12th tee or some of the higher points on this, like at the clubhouse, is just a steady wall of wind. And that's where the golf ball lives. And these guys are going to have a challenge come Thursday, come every afternoon. But Thursday afternoon in particular, looks like even if it just blew 25, the 25 out here, you better be hitting a heavy golf ball, because that thing is going to be all over the place if you're missing it.
Would you try, like, even from a DraftKings perspective, first round leader, or just trying to target guys? We know the guys that should be good at this tournament. They have the really short odds next to their names. But if you're going down the list, there's just a cluster. There's 156 guys. Only the top 60 in ties end up making the cut. Is the hardest cut to make in all of golf. If we're looking for cut makers, would you put any merit to the low ball flight hitters?
100%. And if you're doing lineups or you're doing something where you need a bunch of people to make the cut, then I would definitely favor the AM PM wave. So the early guys on Thursday. And if you're playing first round leaders on Thursday, at this point, where the forecast sits, when you and I are recording this, you would have to take everybody in the early hours. I mean, the earlier the better, because the wind could shift and it could come at 10 a.m. I would want guys in that 7 a.m. hour. I doubt there's anyone that is that good in the 6 a.m. hour, but like there could be. I mean, I would take a guy as early as I could. The greens will be in better shape. And, so guys can make more putts. There'll be less footprints on them. And then the second thing is that the wind won't be as bad. If a first round leader comes out of the afternoon wave, I will personally go out and shake that guy's hand, because he will have earned it. I mean, if it's blowing 25 plus out there, forget the 35 and the 40, whatever the hyperbole is. If it's blowing 25 plus out there, that person will have golfed their ball. Getting back to your question, if you're not favoring the guys, so that's just talking about lineups and wave advantage and everything. For the course of the week, if you're not favoring guys that are able to control their trajectory, if the DNA of their golf swing is hitting the ball low all the time, so this is the opposite of like the Bay Hill conversation that you and I were having back in March when I said, hey, Matt Fitzpatrick hitting into these like really, really firm Bay Hill bounce greens, with his low trajectory from like 200 yards out, it's a disadvantage over 72 holes. Well, you can reverse that conversation here, Pat. Having Matt Fitzpatrick or Chris Goddard or Aaron Rye or Ben Coles or any of the low ball hitters that are out here, those are the guys that you would want. Obviously, those names are at different levels of the betting board or DFS or whatever, but those guys don't have to change the DNA of their golf swing in order to just get around. So somebody like Ludwig that launches it to the moon, he goes, well, yeah, you know what? This week I'm going to hit it low. In the U.S. Open, on one of the hardest golf courses in the country, in like extreme conditions, good luck, buddy. But if you already hit it low and you're used to that, and you're used to seeing that flight pattern leave your club, then guess what? Over 72 holes, you will definitely have an advantage.
So the players with the lowest launch angles in the field with at least 4 rounds of data to work off of, and I'm using the rabbit hole for this week, betspertsgolf.com is $1 if you use code US Open. So I highly recommend that you go to betspertsgolf.com, click that link down in the description, use code US Open. You can find all of this and put it all together for doing your research, making your bets, making your picks for the US Open. Alejandro Tosti, number 1, lowest ball flight in the field.
Hey, man, the rabbit hole knows, and $1 for US Open week, and the code was what again? I forgot it already.
US Open.
All right. It was tricky.
Make it easy for people.
Toasty was in the merch tent last night checking things out. Just throwing it out there. Maybe he thinks he has delusions of grandeur this week and he's getting everybody some gifts.
Well, or he needs to get in early because he might not be there on the weekend. But other names of like prominence, and you mentioned a few of them. Fitz is number 2. Neiman is number 3.
Sure. Neiman for sure.
Berger, Woodland, Aaron Rye. My guy, old Yella Miraju, Ben Coles, who you mentioned, Goddard, who you mentioned, and then a few guys that you probably wouldn't associate with being really low ball type hitters. You got Adam Scott, Johnny Kiefer, Gerard we know, but Ryan Fox and Michael Brennan are on that list as well.
Ooh, Brennan's a surprise. Ryan Fox is not a surprise. Ryan Fox definitely hits the ball low. Yeah, Brennan would be the biggest name that's a surprise on that. You would think with his speed that because I didn't think of him as like a Cam Champ guy. Cam Champ has a ton of speed and he hits it super low. Not that he's here, but like you think Brennan would be one of those guys that launched it high with how far he hits it. It's just going to be such an advantage over all of these holes. The conditions are going to change at a moment's notice. And if all you do is usually hit it super low and you know how to control your spinning and trajectory that way, I can't overemphasize it enough. It's blowing out here. And, I guess it's refreshing, not just because it's wind, but because now we don't get all of these like people dropping balls in the rough and we get those videos on social media. Now we get like, wind blown flags and stuff like that and balls blowing off of greens. Great. It's variety.
For the inverse of that, the highest launch angle players in the field this week, Keegan, Heatsatsuni, Davis Thompson, Ricky Fowler, Neil Shipley, Jason Day, Justin Rose, Chandler Phillips, who is in that first group out. I was eyeing him. Maybe I'm not anymore. Hatton, McGreevy, Straka. So it's funny to think some of these guys are really good wind players. So do some players just have the ability to turn it on and off when they need to in certain situations?
A couple guys in that group are trajectory mavens, like a Rose. Like he could certainly play situational golf and I would trust him to do that. He's obviously done it his whole career, but there's certain guys in there that I would be very worried about that. I don't see those guys changing the way they're going to, the way that they've always hit the golf ball and how they earn their way on tour just for this 1 week. I think they go out and they try the best that they can. And then if you have a high ball hitter, that's not, you always want to diversify your card or your lineups or anything. You can't take all low ball hitters. The conditions could say, like I've already stated, you don't like the weather, wait a minute. So when it does change, you want to have guys that excel in other types of conditions. And then that way you're covered, no matter what happens.
So looking at some of these guys on the course early, I'm not seeing the same splits as you of it being like it's down a bit on Thursday morning, but it's no walk in the park at the same time either. It's still pretty windy on Thursday morning when they'll get on the course.
Well, Pat, it's going to be windy all the time, but it's 20 miles an hour in the morning, and we're talking about gusts of 35 plus in the afternoon. I would stick with the morning. That's all I'm saying. And you've got 156 players. When's the last time we had a field with 156? It's a month ago. But normally speaking, we have these fields of 72. The greens get trampled. There's a reason why you always go for first round leaders early in the morning. The greens are fresh, they're rolling true, and the conditions are usually a little bit more mild. And if anything, if they have put water on the golf course, let's talk about the USGA for a second. John Bodenheimer, Jeff Hall, they've talked about how the golf course is going to play. Rory reiterated this in his press conference earlier this morning. He said that the USGA has come out and said it's going to get firmer and faster as the week goes on. And what that means is when they talk about the week, they mean Thursday through Sunday. So the players should be prepared. And why is this? Well, there's 156 players in the field. Thursday and Friday should be the most mild conditions. That may not mean with the elements, but as far as the golf course goes, in the morning, the golf course is going to be the most sticky. It's going to have the least amount of wind, and it's going to have like the smoothest greens. So that gives a guy who's hitting the ball good the best chance to score. As the day goes on, it gets more and more trampled. And, as the tournament goes on, it's going to get more and more firm and fast. So if you are picking out guys, you also want to think about how the conditions are going to end up on Sunday, a la like the Tommy Fleetwood finish, right? If things are going to be where you really need short game on Sunday, the greens are going to be super firm and fast. At that point, they're going to let the golf course go, and it's going to be windy. I would be handicapping and setting up lineups based upon the weekend days, because if those guys can get by on the weekend and play well there, they can certainly get by and make the cut to the low 60 in ties.
So the other part I wanted to know about the conditions, how are the fairways being structured? We've talked all week about them being not widened, but them not being narrowed like they were in 2018. You're going to have the original design that Flynn put up at Shinnecock Hills, but then these runoff areas just go directly into the super thick rough, the fescue, or some sort of hazard. Do you think that many people are going to be hitting fairways? Like if you had to guess the fairway rate this week, what do you think it will be?
I think it will be very similar to the way that it was in 2018.
Okay.
I think the turf conditions, I think it's going to be very similar to that. There's a couple things going on there that you have to take into consideration when you're predicting who you think is going to win or who you want to put on your betting card. Again, who you want to put in your lineups. You have to understand what William Flynn believed as a golf course architect. So the last dozen years that I was a golf professional was at a place called Springdale Golf Club in Princeton, New Jersey, designed by William Flynn and in the golden age of architecture, right? In the late 20s. This was 1931. So Flynn was athletic. He was from Milton, Massachusetts, but he believed that golf was an athletic and a mental endeavor. And as such, like the way he uses the land here, it's a physical test, right? You're constantly climbing the dunes, you're going across things. And the mental test of it all is the idea of like, how do you strategize with all the dog legs? I mean, the guy must have had a kettle at home because this guy loved dog legs on all of his golf courses. At my home course there that I was the head pro, we had like every other hole was a dog leg. And what he does in his design is that one side of the dog leg, the aggressive side, if you want to go down that side and not play conservatively, and this is very similar to the modern sense to like the way you say aggressive players play well at Pete Dye golf courses. Guys that take on the edges here, they will then open themselves up to the easiest entrance or approach to the greens. If you take the safe route of the dog leg, then you're all of a sudden you're going to have to be crossing a bunker in order to hit it on the green. And obviously your approach might be a little bit longer. Now, will you hit the fairway a lot more often? Yes. But in order to score, you're going to have to give yourself the opportunity from time to time to kind of trim some edges on these dog legs. And that's the beauty of Flynn's design at this place. You really have to pay attention to that. So I think accuracy above all else, like here's the thing. Maybe this isn't a hot take at this point, and I said it on the Golf Channel yesterday. Like everyone keeps saying this is a long golf course. It will not play as a long golf course. We walked away from Aronimink press conferences before we started on Thursday, and everybody's like, oh, this golf course is so short, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, great. This golf course is 50 yards longer, Pat, than Aronimink was. They're both a par 70. Yes, are the par fours a little more severe here? Were the par threes chewing up a little bit more distance at Aronimink? Sure, right? But the rollout here is far superior to that of Aronimink. Guys are going to be able to, like Wiley or Harbortown, the heck out of this place. And those are the types of guys I think are going to be your best bet to make it through the low 60 in ties if they have a great short game and they're really, really good accuracy guys. I think that is the play this week, because if you get off the fairways, so based upon my endless diatribe about Flynn design right here is that guys are going to miss fairways because they're going to have to take chances on these dog legs. The second thing is when they do take chances and you get just off the fairway, and I know you and I were texting about this a little bit, that first cut it's dense. And when the ball gets in there, you have less than a 10% chance of luck, probably less than a 5% chance of luck, of having a lie that you can advance to a green if it's something that's more than 100 yards. It's not going to be a good scenario, right? If you get out in the fescue, you might have a 10 to 20% chance of luck, right? Kind of like the Wiregrass and Pioneer scenario, that you might get a decent lie that you can advance the ball. But the average lie in that fescue is far worse than it is in that first cut. And either scenario, you've got to hit the fairway. Look at Brooks. Everyone's like, oh, Brooks is a super long player. He was in 2018. Yeah, but he didn't play it like a long player. He hit that Vapor 3-iron all over the place, and all he needed to hit it was like 275, 280. Like, that's what guys are going to be doing. I'll use the name because everyone kind of understands his golf game, but you got to Russell Henley the heck out of this place. You got to Tommy Fleetwood the heck out of this place. That's how you play it. You have to play chess with Flynn. And if you kind of take chances that are like, calculated risks, I think the payoff will be great if you hit the shot. And then that's how you're going to accumulate subpar scores.
To go back and look what we saw in 2018, the driving accuracy was actually up quite a bit. It's 71%, which is higher than your PGA Tour average, because the driver usage that week was 64%, which is well below the PGA Tour average. So a lot of guys were sticking to what you were saying, but I thought this was the most interesting part, and to back up your point here, green and regulation overall for the week was 55%. If you played it from the fairway, you hit greens and regulation at around a 69, a very nice clip. From the rough last time around, 23% green and regulation rate.
I mean, either section of rough is no walk in the park, Pat. I mean, it's just thick, it's dense. They haven't gotten much rain out here, but they know how to grow grass, and they have unlimited resources to make this place perfect. And I tell you what, the golf course conditions are absolutely immaculate, and the green sections alone, I mean, they just look phenomenal. One thing that's been interesting, and a couple players have commented about this, and I think when it comes to around the green skill, it's going to get more difficult than people are giving it credit for. But I think in order to try to preserve the golf course, they've been doing a lot of watering on the green surrounds. The green surrounds are a little softer than the greens themselves. And what that does, everyone's like, oh, well, like it's hard when it's firm and fast. When it's firm and fast, when the club comes down and the bottom edge hits the turf, like there's a bounce factor there. Not just the bounce of the club, but there's that turf interaction that the guys are used to. When it's a little bit softer, it's like, well, geez, I can't bump it into a hillside now because I don't know how the ball will react. I've got to fly it up on the green. Well, there's certain shots that you just shouldn't be doing that, right? There's certain ones you shouldn't hit high. There's certain ones you have to hit low. And so it's been kind of interesting to, I'd be very curious if he texted Michael Kim about that, because a couple of the players that I've heard from or I've spoken to, whatever, caddies, they're like, it's been weird because some of the surrounds are soft, which means that it's going to be an even more difficult short game challenge. So I think that if we are already favoring that a certain bit, a certain percentage, I would up it another 10 to 15%, because I really think at the end of the day, when the wind gets blowing side to side, you got to remember the predominant wind here comes out of the southwest, which really blows across most of the fairways. So you're going to get a crosswind. You talk about width of fairways, they're 40 yards. If you're aiming for one half of the fairway, which is, let's say, 25 yards, because you're trying to strategically play one side of a dog leg, and then there's a crosswind, well, how effectively, like what's the effective width now, right? Like, you want guys that can hit fairways. You want guys like with a great short game. Siwoo Kim, guy hits fairways, guy has a great short game. Does he need to be a better putter? Probably. But, that's the type of DNA that we're trying to design as you and I have this conversation today, as I'm looking at the golf course.
So searching through the rabbit hole, once again, code US Open to get it for $1 at betspertsgolf.com. And that includes every other tool, simulation, optimizer, projection on the site. You get access to it all, just $1. Code US Open. I've filtered by past 3 years, minimum of 12 rounds, around the green, very difficult to gain strokes. Would you like to guess some of the names that are at the top of that list?
Guess some of the names. Go ahead.
Cam Smith, number one, who is turning into a very popular sleeper this week.
He's like 135 to 1 right now. Started the week up at like 180. Love Cam Smith this week. I love it.
So,
I mean, the windier it gets, the better it gets for him.
well, can he hit a fairway, I guess is the question.
Hey, if it's blowing 25 with a crosswind all week and he's laying back to a certain degree, I like his chances as good as anyone that is not as accurate as, let's say, Russell Henley or Siwoo Kim off the tee.
Well,
I'll put it that way. Right?
I'm doing more shows this week because it's the U.S. Open. We got to do that. I'm going to be live at 8 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday night going over all of the final bets, the complete cheat sheet, and some of these exotic props. And this is one that I was looking at. Cam Stewart is going to be joining me on that as well. Your pal and mine, Cam Stewart. And we'll be taking questions from the audience, plus the Thursday recap, the Friday cut sweat. That's all going to be on Mayo Media Network. So you better sub right now. Smash the like while you're doing it anyway. But Cam Smith is 10 to 1 to be the low live player this week, which I thought was a pretty interesting number because him and DJ keep popping up for me as, this makes a lot of sense for guys that maybe are a bit past their prime, but starting to play a bit better golf. And because they're on live, no one's really noticed so far.
He's also 10 or 11 to 1 to, be in the top 10 at the end of the week. Again, with his level of short game, he's going to keep himself in a contest. And the more it blows and the more these guys start missing greens and end up in all of these scary situations, scoring from close range and scrambling, I'd put Cam Smith up against anybody there. And now all of a sudden he's working with a proven major championship golf coach. I mean, say what you want about Claude, but Claude has had some good players. And Claude has taught guys how has been teaching guys, has been coaching guys, has been working with players when they've won major championships. So, we saw some instant results. Maybe it was a little bit placebo, but they've had some time to work together. I really feel like there's no way when you look at the people that are around Cam Smith and his ability to score from close range, like he is so perfectly suited. Everyone's talking about like, the Open Championship and who's better at the ground game from 50 yards and in than Cam Smith. Yeah, you got a lot of Cams here. Who's better? I mean, honestly, think about it. Like, I'll hang up and listen. Give me a list of guys that's better than that guy.
So the guys that are he is far and away the best in this. He gains almost a stroke per round around the greens. Now, part of that is that he's scrambling all the time, so he has ample opportunity to use that chipping game because sometimes he's not necessarily hitting a ton of greens in regulation. But he's number 1. Jason Day is number 2. Patrick Reed, Scotty Scheffler, Sung Jae is the top 5. Then you're Rory, Hideki, Hatton, Spieth, then Rahm, then Mav McNeely is who you're looking at.
If it was a shootout, if we were at the TPC Shinnecock Ranch, then no, it doesn't work. But when par has value, the scramblers always move up the leaderboard. And it's a fact of major championships. So if you're putting together a card or a fantasy lineup, you have to populate with those guys because this thing is totally going to go sideways. We don't trust the USGA to run it for 4 straight days and have it not come out of control, right? We certainly can't trust Mother Nature. And the place is already really, really hard if it was calm. Like, just wipe the slate clean and just give me the golf course. And what's the winning score? If there's no wind and these guys just have to play it full out, the winning score is certainly still not double digits under par. It's not going to be, right? Yes, maybe they lost the golf course a little bit in 2018, but every guy that made the cut, every guy that made the cut in 2018 had at least 10 bogeys on his scorecards over the course of the 4 days. So what does that tell you? Like, what's the through line with the 4 modern winners at this place? Raymond Floyd, Corey Pavin, Retief Goosen, and then, of course, Brooks Koepka. The through line for me, the one common denominator amongst all those guys are those 4 guys would get in a bar fight with their buddies, right? Those guys have a ton of grit. I mean, Retief Goosen was struck by lightning at one point in his life, and he came back and he won 2 U.S. Opens. We know what Brooks is like. Raymond Floyd was not a nice guy when he was a competitor. He was not. He won 4 majors, and he would boat race people, and he had the best short game going. And then Corey Pavin got the most out of his career for a guy that, like, was an extra in The Wizard of Oz. I mean, seriously, like, you're talking about 4 guys that went into this super hard test, and they came out on top against elite fields. Like, that's definitely, I don't know what strokes gained grit is or But like that's what you're looking for this week. And what are those types of skills that would lead you to a guy to be gritty? Well, like bogey avoidance, it's almost like bogey defiance is what I wrote in the newsletter, right? Like, and like somebody like Cam Smith or trying to think like Brooks in his prime. Like that's just the way those guys play. That's the way Scotty is. Scotty just tries to get the most out of every single shot, right? And probably half the field doesn't do that. Those are the guys that we're trying to track.
So the other guys that would presumably be able to do this are the ones that are gaining strokes, putting, avoiding those 3 putts like I talked about. Sam Burns is the best in the field in those conditions, followed by Cam Smith. So if you try to combine that around the green play with that elite putting in difficult conditions, there are only 2 players who appear in the top 10 on both lists. Obviously, Cam Smith being 1 and 2 on each list is one. Of those previous names that I gave you, who do you think the only other person is to pop up in putting along with the short game?
Oh, Reed.
It's Rory.
Rory. See, Rory was interesting today in the press room.
Oh, he had a lot to say.
As soon as when he dropped that bomb on the last question, I was like, oh man, that is going to be all over. It had nothing to do with Shinnecock, but that thing is going to be all over the internet.
Let's talk about that for a second, because he stood up for my national open, the Canadian Open, that he talked about as we have been saying on this show since we heard about this schedule, that if you have tier 1 and tier 2 events, that it's almost like he read a transcript of what we called it, because we called them glorified Corn Ferry events, which he just did. So I like this pressure Rory is putting on them to make sure this doesn't happen.
Yeah, when he said that out loud, I was like, holy cow. I said that press conference on Tuesday morning just took on a whole new wrinkle. Because, everyone, Roll App's big schedule, PGA Tour schedule, press conference is next Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. So I'll be up at Travelers. You and I will talk that afternoon. We'll do the final word for the Travelers, the next event on the PGA Tour schedule. But like when he said that, I was like, oh my God. If you want to throw kerosene on the fire, flat out, you could have the Augusta National come out and say, hey, if you win the Canadian Open, you get an invite to the Masters, because you already get one because it's on the PGA Tour. And it's part of the FedEx Tour schedule. So if you win that one, you get in the Masters. But like to say that National Open and give it some gravitas, that press conference was going so well in a Rory sense, where he didn't drop a bomb on the room. And then the last question, which was Josh Carpenter, and they were talking about sponsorships and everything. And next thing you know, boom, that thing flipped. And I was like, he just absolutely nuked this room. And everybody was running out of there, getting ready to write stories. It was unbelievable. I was talking to Josh earlier, and he was saying that, all of these different Corn Ferry and, quote unquote, tier 2 event organizers and sponsors were texting him like they were pretty interested in Rory's comments. We'll just say that.
Well, I think he made the key point here is that as much as there are a certain segment of people that like to dog on Rory, I am not one of them. I very much enjoy Rory because most of the time he just kind of tells you how he feels, and somehow that gets people upset with him when everyone else is just standing up there lying. But he just pointed to Liv. With Liv going away, Liv overinflated the market, and it turned out great for the players. They all got paid way more, but it basically put all tours into a situation where it was financially unfeasible to continue running the way that they were. That I've always been of the impression that when salaries and payments reach a certain level, you very rarely, if ever, see them go backwards. I may have to reverse my opinion on that, because that's kind of what Rory was alluding to, that these numbers are unsustainable. He's like, are sponsors really going to pay $30 million for a tier 2 event? No chance.
And, reading between the lines, I also thought he took a major shot at Phil there, because Phil's whole presentation when it came to Liv was that, like, the tour needed to be changed and the players need to be taken better care of and all of this stuff. And then now Rory basically just came out, and this isn't verbatim, obviously, but what was the last quote? It was like, hey, I think the tour was kind of actually pretty good before Liv came along. And I was like, oh man, I don't know I don't know which statement was worse, but the combination of the two of them, holy moly.
Do you think
Absolutely great theater.
Do you think that the inevitability of Liv going away or Liv becoming the Asian Tour Signature Series or whatever the hell it's going to be next year, do you think this is the reason that we're seeing a reemergence of Cam Smith and Dustin Johnson and these guys that, well, he's like, hey, the hundreds of millions of dollars were great, but those are drying up now. I got to play some golf again.
I think that would be a stretch.
Renewed
that would
focus.
I would think that'd be a stretch for DJ, but I could see it for Cam Smith. Yes.
But even DJ, like, what does he do after Liv?
Oh, the age-old answer to that question is whatever he wants.
Sure, but what if he just wants to play golf 12 times a year or something like that on the PGA Tour? He needs to play well enough now to get back on.
Well, then, Pat, you know what? This is the gift that keeps on giving. This is what everybody wanted. We're getting the best players in the world eager to play better. So whereas Rahm and Bryson seem to be 1 or 2 in Hatton or 3 and maybe Neiman were the guys over there that were really trying, we're getting the best players in the world to try again. And they're now becoming more internally motivated. And I will certainly take that as a result of this entire mess, hopefully coming back together. I mean, I based upon what's going on in this room that I'm sitting in and what I'm hearing, just having been here for a little over 24 hours is, I don't see Liv playing another event this year.
Oh, so you're a part of the crooked golf media that's out to get Liv. How dare you, Keith?
To be honest with you, I mean, Pat, I cover the wagering side of golf. I cover the women. Liv is really meaningless to me. But I love to push your buttons when it comes to this stuff, so I just don't see it happening.
Summer's actually the time of year when I notice bad sleep for me the most because the days are longer, the kids are running around nonstop, they're staying up later because it's so gloriously bright out throughout the course of the night, and then they tell me, it's not bedtime, it's not dark out, although that logic never applies in the wintertime when it gets 4:30 p.m. dark out. Now, does it, kids? But I'm outside more, I'm playing more golf, and if I don't get a good night's sleep, I feel awful the next day. It's one of the reasons I've been so happy with my Helix mattress. I've now had mine for a couple years, and it's been a massive upgrade from what I was sleeping on before. I fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, and I wake up feeling far more recovered. That's the important part. When you're trying to squeeze the most out of your summer, which I have to where I live, it's a pretty big deal to me. What I really like about Helix is they make it easy. Just take their sleep quiz and they'll match you with the mattress that's right for you and your sleep style and preferences. And the summer sale is going on at helixsleep.com right now. So go to helixsleep.com/Mayo for 20% off site-wide. That's helixsleep.com/Mayo for 20% off. Make sure to enter the show name at checkout so they know we sent you. The Travelers Championship. Now is the time. This is the place. Every star, every round, every shot that makes your heart race as legends walk the fairways. Keegan Bradley, Scotty Scheffler, Tommy Fleetwood, Justin Rose, Cameron Young, Xander Schauffele, Colin Morikawa, and other PGA Tour greats, all battling to be called champion. See the world's best for all 4 days. No cut. You'll feel the pressure before the shot, the roar when it drops. You'll stand close enough to see it all, the intensity, the focus, the moment when everything comes down to mere inches, and where everything makes you feel part of the moment. It's golf at its best, up close, open to all, and only here. The excitement starts June 24th and runs through June 28th at TPC River Highlands in Cromwell, Connecticut. For tickets and information, visit travelerchampionship.com. Now is the time. This is the place. What are you hearing about the course, the players? What's the inside scoop from the press room?
The fact of the matter is that when you come to a venue like this, there is this, I wouldn't say the word trepidation, but there is this cautious atmosphere amongst the players that they know they start to really feel the magnitude when they look at the golf course. They start to go out and play practice holes. Obviously these guys, they have teams. They all have golf course mappers or strategists, and they put together a plan before they get here. And they're studying their yardage books. And they say, oh, okay, when I get to this hole, I'm hitting it here, I'm hitting it here. But they don't really have, like a lot of guys haven't played here before. Not everybody is Christopher Wrighton. It's been here in 2018. So, like, the fact of the matter is like they're seeing this place for the first time, and they're seeing it with a ton of wind, and they're seeing it in impeccable conditions. So they're looking at this and going, "Man, this is gonna be a test this week. I better really buckle down." So there's an elevated level of seriousness. Now, it's like that at Augusta because everybody wants to win there. But I wouldn't say that even at Memorial or Riviera or whatever. Yes, there's a little bit more seriousness. At Aronimink, there was a little bit more seriousness. But the Shinnecock combined with the conditions and the fact that we haven't been here in a while, it is the biggest theme that I get is that people are really locked in, and like Cam Young, canceled his press conference today, and we were like, "Well, where is Cam Young?"
Well, he had to do that photo shoot in the Hamptons. Hopefully, he didn't get stuck in traffic on the way back.
Yeah, or he wanted to test out his wrists some more, and maybe that's what was bothering.
Does he have a wrist problem? Maybe
it'd be speculation on my part.
Okay, all right. Let's see. This is the inside the room stuff I need to know.
But at the bottom of the board, like at the short odds, my interest would go in other areas.
So pick on Ludwig, pick on Cam Young is what I'm getting from you here.
That's two places to start.
Well, there are two other injuries that I do want to hear about. It sounds like Brooks has a UCL problem. He went for an MRI in Canada. Didn't trust that. So he got another one that told him the same thing when he got back to America, that he's going to have like tingling in his hands. That doesn't sound good for a golfer.
Under the most extreme conditions. And, go back to Brooks in 2018. How did he win this, Pat? I'm sure you've studied it over and over again. He didn't do it with his wedge. How did Brooks win that week?
Brooks hit an ungodly amount of greens in regulation and then he converted all of those putts. And then every time he had to make par or bogey, he just made a 15-footer.
There you go. And if we could count on anything this week from Brooks prior to his injury and whatever is going on with, whatever's going on there, we couldn't count on his putter. And we knew we needed it this week. I mean, at least to the level that it would be average, that it would be the PGA Tour floor. That's all we needed out of Brooks, because the way that he was playing tee to green, we were like very comfortable with Brooks coming in here. And the fact that he had won here before, and he has major championship medal, all the above, checks all the boxes. But the fact that the putter isn't even remotely good kind of like crossed him off my list to start this week. And then now you talk about this drama. I don't like it at a venue that is like basically you're on the razor's edge in order to try to compete, let alone win.
Don't forget about the staggering amount of injuries, wrist problems, or whatever we just normally see at the U.S. Open anywhere. There's going to be there's not as much rough here as there was last year at Oakmont, but was it Connors WD'd after making the cut last year because he tried to hack it out of the rough and hurt his wrist? Like these conditions can get you.
Absolutely. And guys are, going back to the long conversation I had about the rough and hitting fairways and Flynn and everything, right? When you get in that first cut, you're going to walk in there, you're going to see your lie, it's going to be a bird's nest. And you're going to go, okay, I got to take this egg and chop it out. When you go in the fescue, you could talk yourself. You can be like, oh, this is wispy grass. You could talk into that. Next thing you know, that fescue grass wraps around that hosel. It yanks, and that left wrist in the link, between the steel of the shaft and the steel of the head, the next thing to go are the ligaments in your wrist. And when that shaft slows down and pulls, there goes the wrist injury right there. I mean, you're going to see it probably more than once this week for sure.
So you have Cam Young, maybe wrist injury. You have a hand injury for Brooks Koepka, and then you have Jake Knapp coming back, presumably, from a wrist and thumb injury. Do you think he's going to play?
Do I think he's going to?
Have you seen him out there?
I have not personally seen him. We were on Cam Young watch for a while today, but we did find him. We hadn't thought much about Jake Knapp because my answer to that question would be like, does it matter?
Well,
we haven't seen Jake Knapp in a while.
If he had somehow now in his first start back, that's going to be difficult. But we've seen guys do this before. That if this week was the week after the last time that he played, people would be like, man, Jake Knapp 40-1. Let's take a look.
I mean, I got to push back on that, Pat. If it's Travelers or we're going to TPC River Highlands, sure. The guy drives the ball great. He putts it great. That's a perfect fit for next week. We're talking about Shinnecock here, man. Like seriously. I mean, this is a real man's test of golf, right? Like again, go back to the winners. Those are the types of guys that understood what it meant, the value of every single stroke that you would play in a tournament. And Jake Knapp coming back from an injury, which was off and on, and then he finally committed to the injury, and then he's recovering from it, and this is his first, okay, where does Jake Knapp fall on the trajectory list? I don't know off the top of my head. I haven't looked at Jake Knapp at all, so because I haven't considered him at all this week. But where does he fall on the trajectory list?
I'm going to guess very, very high. I'm going to get rid of the filters that I had up on the rabbit hole right now, and we'll pull up miscellaneous stats and find where his launch angle is. He is 13th in ball speed. He is 8th in club head speed. That's pretty good. And if we go to launch, awesome. He's actually a lower flight ball hitter than you'd anticipate. He's 89th. That's in between Ryan Gerard and Russell Henley.
So I wasn't going to assume that he was a high ball hitter. Well, but when you tell me all of that speed context, right? And he's got the hand injury. I'm like, okay, I'm out. Right? Like right away. I mean, like he's not going to have that level of speed coming back from the injury. There's just no way. And he's not going to have that level of comfort. Look how long it's taken Morikawa. I know he had the baby, but before that, he kept talking about, do I trust my, recovery from my injury? It's just the way golfers think. And the way bettors think is they try to convince themselves, oh, Jake Knapp's got a huge number and I don't like the number on this guy. Well, there's a reason they each have that number. There's no mystery. Jake Knapp hasn't played golf. Why are we still talking about Jake Knapp? Give me another name.
I just wanted to. Is there anyone else that you know who could be injured right now? Because those are three. Those were the three. Well, those were two that I had. I'm learning about Cam Young. Anyone else?
Not that I've heard off the top of my head, but there is X. I could text you or my brother from another mother, Cam Stewart. Before tomorrow night's show. Maybe I'll even pop in on tomorrow night's show. But the fact of the matter is that I don't have any more names for you in the injury conversation.
Well, there is something that you brought up earlier about Flynn designing some of these dog legs where there can be an aggressive side that if you hit the aggressive side, all of a sudden you can score. That led me to two names. And one of them, no one wants any piece of. I've seen his odds now as long as 45-1 to win this tournament. One would be Rory, one would be Bryson. That if for whatever reason they're just hitting their driver to the fullest capability, which they can do, can they cheat code this place?
Rory could, for the reasons you said earlier, the short game and the putter, and his record recently in the U.S. Open. Since the last time he came here and missed the cut, he obviously changed his strategy and his game plan coming into this event. Now, we would like to think he'd be a little bit more accurate with the driver coming in and some of the telltale numbers, but it's Rory McIlroy. He's arguably either the most talented golfer in the world or the second most talented currently in the world. So, for him, sure. The Bryson on the range today was like a show. It was a spectacle. He was talking about one aspect of his right wrist and holding the club with his coach and his team and anyone that would listen for 20 minutes just talking about the same thing. And then he's paired up with Victor Hovland, who's another guy. Imagine those two guys walking down the fairway. I feel bad for Matt Fitz. Those two guys walking down the fairway talking about golf swing all day. I mean, talk about a mind melt. I mean, you have to be so focused to play well here. I can't imagine a world where Bryson all year hasn't been very good at distance control and hasn't been very good with his short game in the biggest events. I mean, the big problem at Aronimink was Bryson going mental around the greens. It wasn't necessarily totally his full swing.
I just wonder at a place like this, because I've seen not Bryson of recent, but Bryson back in the day was very good at strategizing around courses. Now he seems to have one strategy, and if that doesn't work, he doesn't know what to do. But before Bryson used to be, he would go to the RBC Heritage and be like, you know what? I'm hitting irons off these tees. I'm getting to my spot. I'm going to make my putts. If that version of Bryson shows up, I don't know if his ego will let him rein it back off the tee anymore. You just never see it happen anymore. Or he just has one of these amazing driving weeks and can get it done. But his around the green game is I mean, for Augusta, I really don't like it. I like him coming out of the thicker stuff, which we're not going to see a ton of this week from Greenside. But even if he could change that up a little bit, like we saw him do it at St. Andrews, it wasn't a problem. That was a while ago now. That's when Cam Smith was still winning majors. But it's still in there. I still feel like he has the right pieces that this number keeps ballooning and ballooning and ballooning. And before long, it's going to be Bryson behind Justin Rose on the betting board. And frankly, that feels wrong.
Yes. Bryson is a better golfer all around in this current day than Justin Rose. He has higher ceiling and a higher upside. That being said, as his number keeps climbing, the community is telling you that we just don't have any faith. Everyone that surrounds this whole conversation has zero faith in him doing anything. Do you have more faith in Cam Smith at, let's just say he's 100-1 winning than Bryson winning at 50-1?
I don't know. I still think that Bryson has the better chance of winning. I do.
Okay. Because I can't argue against that.
It's such a narrow pathway if he sticks to the game plan that he currently has. But even if he doesn't change his game plan, he's still good enough to 1 out of 100 times make that work. And then all of us, because you mentioned the key thing with Bryson is that it's the putting. If he can just get his putter rolling, which we've seen him be able to do, all of a sudden, if his chipping's not the greatest, he pulls a Brooks and just starts making 17-footers all day.
So I think probably the most important PSA to come out of the Bryson conversation is do not compare this situation to the Wingfoot situation.
Correct.
And you just don't compare it to that. You can compare it to the Pinehurst and the Wiregrass situation, but the Wiregrass was nowhere near as thick and as dense and as clumped as the fescue is. So I think the green complexes compare. I think that, if you're big on the way Bryson played on and around the greens at Pinehurst, I think there's a direct correlation there. I think if you're comparing the way that Bryson played off the tee, and certainly his approach game is nowhere near where it was a couple of years ago at Pinehurst, but if you're talking about his approach off the tee, I think you're taking on way more risk with the fescue and the longer rough and the first cut of rough here. And I think over the course of 72 holes, that's going to cause him not to win. Bryson in that marketplace where he is currently has a way higher ceiling and has a much better chance to catch lightning in a bottle. If all these guys that are at 50-1 and Bryson's sitting there, Bryson has that 1 in 50 chance, whereas a number of those guys just don't.
Like when you look at the betting board and you see Siwoo Kim at 35-1, Sam Burns at 45, hell, Wyndham Clark at 45, and then Bryson's 50, you'd be like, just give me Bryson. Like that, like eventually you're overthinking it, I think. Unless you really like you really like Sam Burns. How did Sam Burns treat you in Canada on Sunday?
No, we're not talking. It's not a Sam Burns. I mean, how about the fact that Wyndham Clark hits it almost as far, right? He's kind of erratic, like Bryson. He has the big miss, but he's putting really good right now, and he's chipping okay. And Wyndham Clark comes and goes with his approach play, but so does Bryson. And the trend right now tells you to go with Wyndham Clark over Bryson. So which one would you take? You'd still take Bryson in the U.S. Open?
To win, yes. Yeah, if it was a head-to-head.
Because Wyndham, you picked him for a reason. Wyndham's got one of those.
I understand that, but do you think that he could do it at a real U.S. Open venue?
Oh, that is I am not going to take the bait on that for sure.
But like if you told, but it's a lot like what we were speaking about with Alex Noren. I can't remember if that was now on the show or off the show.
Are you going to take away Jordan Spieth's U.S. Open win at Chambers Bay?
I think Chambers Bay I think that Chambers Bay was a great U.S. Open venue. I do not understand why people give it such a hard time. I think because visually it wasn't appealing. That was a test of golf, Keith.
Okay, so I think LACC North is a great test of golf. It was a horrific fan experience, right? And I think a lot of that controlled the mob message, but LACC North is a fantastic golf course. And I mean, they're going back there, but they're not going back to Chambers Bay. Not that is, complete validation of anything, but I mean, give me a break. LACC North is such a better golf course than Chambers Bay, and way more of a challenge, way more of a championship caliber course in order to test every aspect of your game, which is something that you're trying to test in a U.S. Open. Now, do those courses pale in comparison to the Oakmonts and the Shinnecocks and the Pinehurst number 2s? Of course they do. We're not having that conversation. But to discount Wyndham Clark's U.S. Open win because of LACC North, because a lot of people couldn't, because the fans couldn't get around the golf course and they couldn't. I mean, why didn't you like LACC North? Were the fairways too wide? Because the fairways are the same width here.
It's not that the fairways were too wide. Good on you for having wide fairways. But when you put it into the rough, you could still like fly 5 irons at the green. The missed fairway penalty at LACC, until we got, like, as you kind of mentioned, for the entire tournament, it got harder every single day. I wasn't like super keen on 2 guys shooting 8 under on the first day of a U.S. Open.
Yeah, I mean, again, if a marine layer came in here on the end of the island and it softened the whole place up, guys are going to score here. They're that good. You cannot stop them, right? That's what happened in LA. I was there.
Yeah,
right?
but they don't have a marine layer on the East Coast, do they?
I mean, I can remember, the 07 U.S. Women's Open at Newport, which you're talking about a similar type of terrain. You're talking about linksland golf. You're talking about right on the water up there in Newport. And fog shut down the first round for 4 hours? I mean, you can get a marine layer out here. We're just not getting it. And, we haven't got much water out here in months for sure. I mean, the place is firm and fast.
I would actually, as funny as this sounds, that if you wanted to find an American major U.S. Open championship venue that would be like Shinnecock Light, it probably is Chambers Bay. It's probably going to play a lot like that, isn't it?
Well, the light part would also be the scoring. It'd be way easier to score at Chambers Bay.
Yeah, but scoring was very difficult at Chambers Bay.
Yeah.
You hate Chambers Bay. Look at you. Hate it. You're
like,
fuck off, Pacific Northwest. Get out of here with your U.S. Opens.
I'm just not going to listen to you like badmouth George Thomas, like brilliant design at LACC North. Like that was a good championship golf course. It was horrifically run. Again, I can say it over and over again. The media experience, the fan experience, all of the above. It was very difficult to get around, whether you're inside the ropes or outside the ropes. LA was a nightmare as far as traffic, and the whole experience was terrible. But the golf tournament itself, based upon the conditions that they were dealt with the soft conditions of Thursday and Friday, and then it got better as the weekend went on. That's a good golf course.
Well, now, we cannot quantify this on the rabbit hole, but you've brought it up a few times so far, is that focus.
Yeah.
If we had to rank between us who we think are the most focused type players out there right now, be it from the very high end to the very low end, and you're out there every week, every second week, seeing these guys, who would you throw up on that list?
On the most focused end?
Yeah, if we're looking for those guys are going to run through a brick wall. You said Scotty doesn't give his shot away. We'll put Scotty at number 1 on that list. But
yeah, Scotty would be up there. I would also put Rory up there.
Lowry is not there.
No, I would put Patrick Reed up there. And the example I'll use with Rory McIlroy and Patrick Reed is that look how many starts those guys have had this year. And when they show up, they contend. They know exactly what they need to do in order to perform, and they get themselves ready. And with all of the nonsense, like you're like, hey, what's the buzz on this, Keith? What's the talk about this? With all the nonsense that's going on around this media center, so the media center is sitting adjacent to the left side of the first fairway. So when you see the coverage and there's a big tent there, that's where I'm sitting. And Rory was playing with Rose and Tommy and somebody else at his practice round. And when they walked by, there was 38 people in their group inside the ropes. Not counting media, just people, agents, managers, I don't know, dog groomers. You had all these people just walking with their group to play 9 holes to study the golf course in its current condition in order to get ready for the national championship. One of the 4 major championships. And like guys like Reed was walking with Todd Lewis earlier and talking to him, and he just looked so calm and casual. And I guarantee you that guy will top 10. Like that's just what they do. That's the level of focus and grit and determination. Like those are the guys. Like Cam Smith, when he was playing well, like when he won that year, but was contending at the Masters every single year. Like the guy just rolled in, whether he was playing good or not, and he understood how to perform the specific shots that were needed for the test that was in front of him. And like that is, to me, the type of guy that you're looking for. And it's like doesn't matter how many It's like they don't even need the reps. They know when they practice how to prepare, and those are the guys that you really love.
The weather here, it's great. And we've been actually spending time outdoors again. Before, the backyard, basically a patch of grass, maybe some mud, and a place that the kids just run through. Now it's somewhere we actually hang out. We grabbed a few outdoor pieces from Wayfair, completely changed the space. The best purchase? Easily the patio seating set. It's one of those things that you don't realize you're missing until you got it. Now we're eating outside, having coffee for breakfast outside, and actually using the backyard every single day. And if you've never shopped with Wayfair before, I'd tell you it's the easiest place to start because that'd be true. Whether you're looking for outdoor seating, grills, patio decor, lighting, storage, it's basically a one-stop shop for getting your outdoor space ready for summer. Plus, with over 20 million 5-star reviews, you can see what real customers think before you buy. Patio season is here, and these deals won't last long. Head to wayfair.com/m/outdoor right now to get your outdoor space ready for way less. That's wayfair.com. You know what's annoying? Thinking you got your finances lined up, then some random thing pops up and throws everything off. That's why I've been checking out Cash App. It's not just for sending money anymore. Cash App does more than you think when it comes to having your back and making sure your money stays your money. Cash App just released a new status program for the way people actually spend called Cash App Green. Now, when you spend at least $500 a month with a Cash App card, you earn green status, which unlocks benefits like up to $200 of free overdraft coverage. If you overdraft unexpectedly, there are no hidden fees. You also unlock higher borrowing limits and custom personalized cashback offers every Friday at places you love to shop. Turn everyday spending into status with Cash App Green. Download Cash App today or visit cash.app to learn more about this and other financial benefits. New Cash App customers can earn $10 if they use code CASHAPP10 in their profile at sign up and send $5 to a friend within 14 days. Terms apply. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank. Member FDIC. Cash App Visa debit flex cards issued by Sutton Bank. Member FDIC and the Bancorp Bank N.A. Pursuant to a license from Visa USA Inc. See terms and conditions for the Sutton prepaid card, Sutton debit flex card, and Bancorp debit flex card. Cash App Green features savings, direct deposit, roundups, overdraft coverage, and discounts provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures. Let's talk about something no one in endurance sports likes to admit. You can be training your ass off, cardio, stress, not recovering properly, and yeah, it can mess with your performance everywhere, because it all comes back to blood flow. Most guys jump straight to pills. That's just treating the symptom. The real key is nitric oxide. That's what controls circulation, endurance, and yeah, performance. That's why Joy Mode actually makes sense. It's a natural booster that supports nitric oxide production, not the fake pixie dust stuff. Just tear open a packet, mix it like an electrolyte drink, and you are good to go. Use it when you need it, or use it daily to raise your baseline. Think of it like training. One dose helps, consistency changes everything. If you want to support sexual performance the same way you support training and recovery, naturally and intelligently, Joy Mode has a deal for my listeners. Go to tryjoymode.com/Mayo or enter Mayo at checkout for 20% off. Joy Mode, the electrolyte packet for your dick. Let's talk about some bets. Got to make some bets for this tournament. Have you bet on anyone so far?
I have not yet.
Okay. Can I sell you on? I got 6 guys that I bet to win this tournament. 3 of them are like hilarious and aren't going to win, but we get some placements with those. So I got 3 main bets for the week so far. I got room to add here. Matt Fitzpatrick, I grabbed at 28-1. He has been bet down to either 22, 20, 18.5. I've been seeing in other spots. I got him at 28. I'm happy with that. You can be happy with that too. If you're in Canada, outside of Ontario, you go to coolbet.com right now. You can hit the link down in the description for the PME exclusives tab. Get your bonus down there as well. They have honored. They couldn't get me back up to the 28, Keith. But they did give out a 26 on Matt Fitzpatrick if you want to take it. Here's my issue. When the golf tips checker comes out of who the most tipped guy this week is going to be, pretty sure it's going to be Matt Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, the wheel of death. Yeah. When's the last time somebody on that wheel has won? Ever? Has it ever happened?
Yeah, Nico won. Nico was one of the highest ones. There was one like 3 weeks ago who won too. forget who it was. And Suber would have been up there last week if my main man could have made a 5-footer.
JT Poston? No, that wasn't.
No, it was not JT. So I'm going with Matt Fitzpatrick. That's the big bet this week. 26-1 at Coolbet.
I like Fitz.
If you want to get back into it. I've been banging the Goddard drum now for ages. You can get him anywhere from 45 to 55. I got him at 55. I'm seeing a 55 in front of me right now. Chris Goddard. And I, for the second time all year, have bet Russell Henley to win at 45-1.
I mean, based upon the conversation we've had, you just took 3 archetype players that would be very, very good here.
So two really good wind players, 2 guys that play really well at difficult courses, 2 guys who can really chip it, 1 guy who can really putt, another guy who's just amazing in the wind and has won at different. See, the reason that I like Goddard so much is that he's now done it in blustery conditions at different styles of courses. You mentioned YLI earlier on this year, and he did that while losing strokes putting. That's how good he was off the tee. He wasn't even clubbing down. He was just hitting these like low stingers with his driver. It was like, all right, good. Didn't see this coming, but his wedge control in these conditions, we even saw it at Aronimink as well when he started making his charge there, that all of a sudden you're like, man, this guy can really control the golf ball. But it was his around the green play and creativity in Scotland last year and the Open Championship last year, and even at the Masters this year in his first go. When you saw him on the weekend, I know that he only came T24, but I would assume that the first time, and listen, you would know this better than I am because you're there every year now, that the first time that you show up at Augusta, around the green play must be so staggering based on the different shots that you have to hit. And the one thing that was noticeable, that popped off the screen about Chris Goddard was his ability to judge the undulations, bounce it off this hill, to get it to roll this way, to control the speed. It was incredible. I couldn't believe a debutant was able to judge these chips like he can. And that has been something that you get your standard up and down type places like your Players Championship where Justin Thomas is going to spin a wedge to 1 foot and everything is going to be great. That doesn't really seem to be Chris Goddard's game. Give him a challenge and somehow he gets better.
To elaborate on what happened at Augusta, he obviously had a very solid game plan because there are certain short game shots that you just cannot complete, that you cannot save par from. And he always missed it in the right spot. So you got to take a step back from where he ended up in those spots that he was able to get up and down. Yes, was it great that he was able to pull off those around the green shots? 100%. But he was also in building a game plan and a strategy for the golf course. He was very capable to understand where he needed to put the ball, and if he did miss, he missed in all the right places. So that, you could transfer that skill over here to Shinnecock because you're going to need a game plan. Now, you automatically took my dogleg conversation toward the guys that hit it long, like Rory and Bryson, like cutting corners. For me, those are the guys like Russell Henley, the guys that know they hit it so straight, or Siwoo, that they can hit it along those edges, and then they create the best opening to the green on approach, and then they're really good at and accurate with their proximity on approach. I think that Goddard is good at that as well, and he's a little bit longer than Henley. So I think that both of those guys, and certainly Fitz all around. We don't need to elaborate on that, but those other 2 guys are certainly very high. The main reason I hadn't placed any bets yet is that I spent almost half my day in New York City in the car yesterday, so I just got behind in what I was doing. But the people that I could easily talk into Fitz. We could still get a number down here around 23, maybe overnight it gets to 24, but between 22 and 24, I still think that that's a fair number on the guy that's going to win the golf tournament. I do like Xander. I'm going to pick Xander. I'm definitely going to pick Xander. I think that. Go ahead.
The only pushback I have against Xander is he's turning into Tommy Fleetwood, where he plays 2.5 awesome rounds, and I don't know what's going on with him the other 1.5.
So the reason I'm locked in on Xander is that when things go sideways this week, he is, one of the top 5 most well-rounded golfers in the world. And I think that his skill set will allow him to be in contention and stay inside the top 10 for the entirety of the tournament. And I think that that's going to make a difference. So at the top of the board, those would be the 2 guys. And what I've seen here and what I'm looking at and how I'm breaking down the golf course, those guys make the most sense to me at the top of the board.
So the 3 long shots that I have put in so far, and one of them is like an absolute farce, but just bear with me here. One of them is Kurt Kitayama with 5 placements at 80-1. The second one is Alex Fitzpatrick, 110-1 with 8 places, and Chris Kirk, 400-1 with 8 places.
You know, I played Chris Kirk last week, and
he was good. He couldn't putt.
I mean, it's been the story all year, and you know, I went into it thinking he needed to putt, and he had done it in his longest day of golf qualifying. He had putted very well. He obviously was medalist down there in Georgia. So I said, maybe the putter will carry over. His first 9 holes, he's like 8 feet, 7 feet, 9 feet, 11 feet, 9 feet. Those are his approach lengths for birdie chances. And like, he didn't hit the hole. You know, even on ShotLink, the little red line on my screen at home on the monitor, it was like outside the hole by inches. You know, like it was like, man, this is like, they were trying to make a point here. This guy cannot putt. It was terrible. But in windy, tough conditions, a guy like Chris Kirk is definitely further down the board. I think he'd be a great DraftKings play. I think he would be a great placement bet. Head-to-head matchup, all the above, make the cut. I think Chris Kirk, the way he's hitting the golf ball right now, makes a lot of sense. And then, this place is tough to putt. So a lot of 2 putts will be okay. Again, when par is the goal for 4 days, it changes a lot of the dynamics with some of these players. Lee Jansen was never going to shoot 20 under, but all of a sudden you brought par in play, and here's this guy. Same thing with Curtis Strange. And these are some of like these are 2 great championship golfers. Guys won multiple U.S. Opens, and they didn't really win anything else. So there's a certain modus operandi, little MO that you need this week, and you have to be able to keep that number and value every shot right around, what's it going to be, 280?
Well, yeah. Well, his numbers. His numbers going to be. Oh, sorry.
I meant 280's par.
Oh, yeah. 280 will be par. 280 will be par. But so here's the other reason that I noticed with Zach Johnson back in the day, too, that you look at his U.S. Open track record, it's like, it's really good. Why would that be the case? And it's not so much that he's got, he said, you play to par, that he's not lighting it up on these par 5s. Hell, the par 5 birdie or better percentage on these 2 par 5s this week is like 20%. So yeah. Just make par on your par 5s and you're going to be good to go. And I started to reverse engineer why Zach Johnson. What does he do that's really, really good? Because Zach Johnson's a good putter. It's not like he's the greatest putter in the world. Good short game, immaculate wedges, and highly accurate. What is Chris Kirk? Well, the putter's gone in the tank in 2026. It has been very bad. Still very good around the green, immaculate with his wedges, and hits a bunch of fairways. The past 2 U.S. Opens, T26, T12. I'm looking for guys down at the bottom, and he was the one that really just kind of leapt out to me.
Yeah, the guy the furthest down for me was Cam Smith, and then past that, I was kind of like, well, this is a stretch unless it's a placement bet or something like that. But
and that's what this is for. This is for the 8 places. I mean, he hits his 8 places. That's what, 85-1 or something. Like, I'm good with that.
I would hope so. I mean, I bet Chris Kirk last week, and I felt really good about it. So I certainly can't argue against it in this moment.
So I went with Chris Kirk. So for first round leader, I did go with Chris Kirk, and I'll finalize all these with Cam on the show on Wednesday evening, 8 p.m.
When does Kirk tee off?
Kirk's in the afternoon, unfortunately. So, but I had bet him earlier on just because I wanted to do it. He is at 12:52. But based on what you've told me, I'm going to believe you, Keith. And I got to target these early morning guys. So as you were going, I was writing down names of early morning guys that I think that can persevere in these conditions and put up. What do we think the first round lead is going to be? -3? -2? Yeah. Like someone's going to go out and have a good putting day, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So
and it'll be early and they'll have good greens. And yeah, of course.
So all these guys are out on the course before 8 a.m. Cam Smith, Chris Gotterup, Patrick Reed, Alex Noren.
I mean, in that group, I would say Gotterup.
But why I could just bet all 4.
Well, you could do that too, yeah.
So the other interesting names from this early group.
I like the buffet. Yeah.
Can we get Gotterup a win this week? Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be a nice, everyone's, hometown Cam Young. I mean, Long Island and Jersey are pretty close too.
I mean, trust me. If the chain is swinging and the buttons are open on Sunday afternoon and that kid's in contention and he's rolling out there in Johnny Cash all black for the U.S. Open, this place is going to be electric. Because he's from Rumson, New Jersey, which is on the Jersey Shore. I mean, it's like it's straight across in the helicopter. You could go by boat and get here quicker, certainly than driving. The driving out here it's a massacre. But like Gotterup will have a ton of attention. There'll be all these like Sopranos, memes and everything. It'll be fantastic. The yelling, but like when he tees off and everything, bada bang. Oh man, it'll be such great theater. I would love it.
I do appreciate that he looks like if you just put human growth hormone into Patrick Reed, that's what Chris Gotterup looks like.
I never thought about that. Here's one thing, like in all seriousness though, if you want to get in the weeds on Gotterup, the reason that Gotterup is so good and the way that he traps the ball, like when you go over to the Renaissance Club, you are like hitting off concrete. And that's what it's like hitting here. It's the same level of links land, right? Like no one even knows what links golf is. They don't even, they think it's links on a chain. Hello, that's not the case. It is about the land. It's about the texture of the soil. It is the land that linked the beach and the sea to the agricultural land. It was this dead land in between in Scotland, right? And that's where they put the golf courses. Now, where are the golf courses? They're on that land, right? You can't really grow stuff on it other than this grass and like, bushes and stuff like that. So that's why they used it for golf. And now fast forward, there's probably only 3 or 4 golf courses over here in the United States that truly use link style soil. And right here where we are on the eastern end of Long Island is like that. Newport would be another one. Places that don't have a ton of irrigation where they kind of just let the place go all summer. Over years and 100 years of allowing the soil to be firm, it stays firm most of the time. So now all of a sudden you have to be really, really good ball striker to hit the ball well, trap it, use the right trajectory, spin control and all of that. The way that Gotterup did it at the Scottish Open last year was a little bit softer at Portrush, but like the way he hit it last year with all the dust clouds, like, every time he hit it, like you're going to see a lot of that this week. And like, that's one of the reasons why people should be like hyper excited about Chris Gotterup this week for sure.
Do you know who else does that and has played well at the Scottish Open in the past? And local guy too, presumably.
And local guy. Well, you threw me off there.
I think he's local. Maybe I'm dead wrong. He went to Duke, but I think that he's local.
Alex Smalley?
Alex Smalley is the answer.
Yeah.
Don't like Alex Smalley, do you?
Well,
born in Rochester, New York.
Well, that's not local. That's 5 hours away.
Well, it's closer than everyone else is from fucking Georgia.
Well, okay, fine. Relatively speaking, yes.
Well, but listen, not everywhere is going to be a links condition, obviously, but I do think that you're a Jersey guy. You're probably better off to speak to this, but Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Mass, New York, wherever it is, the conditions in the Northeast are not mimicked in the rest of the country, where it's always similar to when the guys show up at RSM or the beginning of the Florida swing. There's just certain guys that are awesome on that Bermuda and other guys from different parts of the world or regions just cannot figure it out. The West Coast POA, guys can putt on that, generally if they're from California and different places, but I've like Florida guys going to California, takes them a while to get their bearings.
Hey, Fitz at TCC twice, wins the AM there, wins the US Open there, English kid, right? Traps the ball, hits it low, lots of shaft lean, same thing you've got there with Gotterup, like very, very similar style mechanically of how they full swing and hit the golf ball. These are things to pay attention to. Like those are the skill sets. Everyone's like, oh, what are the range buckets this week? I don't know. Just tell me which direction the wind's blowing and how hard it's blowing, and I'll tell you how far you're going to hit the ball. It's going to change every minute of every day. You might have 4 different approach shots on the 11th hole alone. It's always going to be changing. You have to be someone that can control the trajectory and spin of your golf ball. That's the ultimate test this week. Well, whether you're off the tee, you're on approach, or you're chipping up a hillside and you're trying to get that ball to kind of like one check hops and and then spin.
Blickle had a very interesting thing that he pointed out when we were discussing this off air about the wind, that it's not just like, you got to keep the ball low in order to be able to cut through the wind and shape your shots this way. He said one of the more important things this week is actually going to be when you're playing downwind with that spin control. And that's a part that everyone always overlooks when we talk about the wind.
Downwind for these guys is almost harder to control the ball.
That's what he's saying, is that the guys that can do that are actually the ones we're going to level up on the leaderboard.
Yeah, because you get that thing going downwind and then it takes the spin off the ball and then they can't stop it. And then you go over these greens and then it's, muerta, death. You're done. Yeah, it's over,
Question from Jared. Okay.
all right.
I think we've done 3 shows and we haven't really talked about him at all, but I wanted to get Keith's thoughts or your thoughts on John Rahm.
Like John Rahm. Good
T2.
play.
Last time we saw him. Pretty good.
Yeah. It's just I'm not bet. If I can bet him and Rory at the same price, I'd rather bet Rory.
I agree with that 100%.
That's just where it kind of falls with John Rahm for me. Like, does he deserve to be the 2B or the third favorite? Absolutely. I think he's the third best player in the world right now. But if you're giving me him the same price as the number 2 player or potentially the 1A player right now, I'm taking the other guy.
The one thing that Rahm's secret sauce is that he is very good around the green. And that was one of the things that really helped him out at Oakmont last year. Rahm's a very good scorer. He loves Seve and everything, and his style of game and what he takes a lot of pride in. He's very good at scoring and that bogey avoidance. I don't have any faith in the guys coming over for Liv that when this thing gets heated on Sunday, that they're battle tested enough to pull through.
All right, I'm gonna give you 2 bets that after we were talking through, I'm gonna make on the fly here because you mentioned Brooks and you mentioned Cam Young, and we don't really know about Cam Young. We're theorizing here, but they're playing together on Thursday morning with Chris Gotterup. Chris Gotterup is the massive underdog in that 3-ball in round 1, 2-1 to win that 3-ball. I will play that 150.
I think that's a good.
Go ahead.
I think there's some logic there. Yeah, I think that's a good play.
$150 plays 450, so that's always good. Then you can go to Underdog, use code Mayo, and you get yourself a deposit bonus up to $1,000 here. Then we can just search Cam Young and just take his over for the day on whatever he's going to shoot in the first round, and we'll do the same with Brooks and be on our way. 72.5 is his stroke total. We'll go higher on that for round 1, and then we'll go with Brooks in round 1. He is they're not. They cowered it out that, you know what? I'll just take him to miss the cut. And that pays 4.5 to 1 too. Cam Young, 3 over or worse on Thursday. Brooks Koepka to miss the cut pays 4 to 1.
I mean, is the book sharp enough to have adjusted for the wind on Thursday afternoon? I
think so, yeah.
With all of those guys?
And
with every single player?
I don't know with all of them. So you'll have to scroll through and do that yourself.
Okay.
And I'll come up like in the cheat sheet that I release. I'll have it for the US Open. I prefer the old to miss the cut parlay versus the to make the cut parlay because out of the top 10 guys on the betting board, how many of them do you think make the cut? 6?
Of the top 10 guys on the betting board, how many make the cut? 6.5 would be a good over-under, and I will take. Yeah, I'll go with 60%. Yes.
Like the last time we saw Rory here, he shot 80 in round 1.
I mean, the eject button is sitting right next to the golf bag at this place. It's very similar to Sawgrass when it gets super windy there. I mean, guys are going to have problems. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch, and it's going to become all about survival.
Well,
really.
I told you I went on the golf trip I guess 4 weeks ago now to Black Desert. Yep. Highly recommend Black Desert if anyone wants to go on a trip. It's kind of pricey. I mean, to stay at the resort and play at that course. The course is so nice, Keith. It's unbelievable. And you know what we used on our 8-man trip? Wolfhammer. Talked about it on the show. And I was talking to everyone down there. I was like, we need to use this app if we're going to be competing against each other. Like one guy had his own Excel sheet that he made. I was like, let's just do it this way. We even used the recording smack talk videos between the group, and you can too. Code US Open 2 months. You can hit the description, go straight to on iOS or Android, get Wolfhammer, or just type in Wolfhammer and you'll be good to go. Play any game that you want. I know you're big on this because how's men's night been going with Wolfhammer?
I mean, fantastic. And really what it comes down to is that in my career as a golf course operator, I ran thousands of tournaments and events. And towards the end, before I walked away from that and I started reading the line, the most common request, suggestion, Keith, can we get this? Was live scoring. Can we figure out where everyone stands on the golf course? There should be a way to do this. There should be a way to do this. And these guys make it so simple. Everyone downloads the app. And whether you're playing with, just 2 groups and you want to know what the guys in front of you are doing and you want to send them messages in order to shit talk them and everything, all of this stuff is just it's so simple with Wolfhammer. I think it changes the game when it comes to having an event at the club or playing with your buddies at your local Saturday morning game, wherever that may be, at the Muni around the corner or at your home local, I mean, whatever it may be. For me, this is the evolution of where we should be in golf. You listen to music, you have some drinks, you have some fun on the golf course, and if you are betting at all, this thing's it's integrated with gin. It will handicap a match between me and you, Pat. It does all the things that in 2026 we should be able to do and keep track of our scores. Wolfhammer, I love it.
We had a friend game the system when he claimed he was playing at a 29 handicap, and he ended up winning.
Yeah, beat it. You know, like integrated with gin, and then the new feature that's coming, I think it's at the end of this year, but it's definitely coming, is that they're going to use AI. Who's not using AI, but they're going to use AI based upon the scores that you actually do put in, buddy, in the matches that we're tracking, because we're using Wolfhammer. So like, you don't have to worry about them going to use gin. You're like, no, I've got your score in here. That thing's going in. And then now, you know, we've got you covered. It's funny. It's like Post-its, man. It's like everybody used to talk about this. Keith, why can't we have PGAtour.com? Why can't we have a leaderboard? Why can't we have this? We can have it now. We can have good things.
Search Wolfhammer in the App Store right now. Use code US Open 2 months and get your discount for 2 months. I'm cooking up to a miscut parlay here. I'll have a super one, but
how about one and done?
Well, we'll get to that in a second here, Keith.
All right,
I want to see if I can.
I
want to see how much money I can waste in real time on this show with losing bets. Cam Young and Brooks both to miss the cut is plus seven. Is both plus 750. If I can throw another big name on that, I was between Justin Thomas, Ludwig, and Bryson. Which one would you throw on?
Oh, Bryson. I like JT this week.
Really? How come? Now that Jared brought up that we had not talked about Rahm at all. I don't think I've mentioned Justin Thomas's name once this week. Why Justin Thomas?
The way I see the golf course is that I see it like the type of golf course that Justin Thomas is really good at. It's a short positional golf course where he can use his accuracy on approach, very good approach player, and then he can use his short game and scoring from close range, and he doesn't have to be like a really good putter. And I think if all of those things come together, I think in that range where there's a lot of question marks around some of those guys in that like 50, 55, 60 to 1 range, he's the type of guy. I mean, there's certainly some really good approach and short game comps here between this and Southern Hills. You know, it's not just in the name that they're both called Hills. Like, I love this fit for JT. Now, JT is the type of guy that if he has a poor game plan and he finds himself in the rough too much with the driver, but he's been good with the driver lately. Like, and I don't mind the fact that he was like at Memorial. I don't mind that. I almost kind of I like the fact that there wasn't, there was this opportunity with him the week off to really get like locked in and then come. And I just see him as being the type of guy that is also very good at saving par, that can hang around in these types of major championships that really, really ask the question, like, can you get up and down from all over the place? And can you make subpar scores when the situation maybe doesn't call for it, just because you're that talented of a person with a wedge in your hand? So I like JT this week in the middle of the board.
Okay, so Bryson, Cam Young, and who was the other one I had on there? Now I can't.
Brooks.
And Brooks. Those three to miss the cut, 22 to 1. Boom. I vented.
Yeah, I don't know. I know we're throwing some shade on Cam Young, but Cam Young at home.
Yeah, but we're playing angles here. We're juicing up our odds for this, like in an even situation. Like, I mean, you know what? I can run this at BetSperts right now. Let's see. Tools. You can do this too. Code US Open, $1. And custom matchups, tournament simulations. What do you think that the made cut odds are for Cam Young? Just without knowing anything for this tournament specifically, what are his chances to make the cut this week by 10,000 simulations?
10,000 simulations. What are his chances to make the cut? Oh, I might be way off on this, but his chances are in the low 70%.
76%. So,
okay.
So 1 in 4 times without an injury potentially, he's going to miss the cut anyway. If he does actually have an injury, then that number's going way down. And you're getting like plus 300 for him to miss the cut.
Yeah, he's a morning guy, though.
That's okay. I mean, guys, like I said before, it's not that there's no wind in the morning and it's going to be super windy in the afternoon.
I understand. Well, I mean, you know the way I kind of look at lines. Like
I know, but you give me that one nugget, Keith. I'm going to blow it out of proportion. Okay, that's what I'm going to do.
All right. Well, that's why so many people listen to this, because there's two types of listeners out there, or viewers, right? There are people that are at home right now listening to this, and they're like, I'm a Keith guy. And then there's people at home, they're like, I'm a Pat guy. And then somebody's like, well, I'm neither. I'm like, well, you're not watching, right? People are always picking sides. It's good.
Other things to do this week. Fanball.com. I have the PME picks contest. You get your $15 salary cap. You make 5 picks. Boom, you're good to go. It's $20 to play. $2,000 to the winner. I need you to fill it because it has my name attached to it, and there's not that many spots. So if you're still watching, please go enter that right now. It's down in the description. You can enter it up to 8 times. You can turn 20 into $2,000 just by making some picks. And the board is pretty soft, put it that way. But one and done is very important this week, Keith. It's one of the last few giant money tournaments of the season, and I'm running out of guys. So here's what I have in the $1,000 right now. I guess the question is, if you haven't used Rom, do you use him now?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the way that I like to think about this, because again, I have to instead of making correct picks and the smart idea, you know how I like to wrap my mind around this and just talk myself out of good plays?
Yes.
I just think that no one wants to use Bryson. So if you had Bryson left, you're not going to use him anyway. Brooks would have been left for a ton of people, but no one really wants to use Brooks anymore either. No. So that leaves Rom as kind of the guy that no one has. He's got to be the most owned guy by like a long shot here. That if you just pick, so I could use Goddard instead.
How much steam was behind Rom going into the Masters?
Tons.
Everybody and their mother was using Rom at the Masters. The guy's gone. He's gone.
He is at 60% availability right now. Scotty is at 0. Rory's at 29. Xander's at 29. Cam Young's at 21. Fitz 23. Tommy 30. Ludwig 20. Then you have Brooks at 60, and then you have Rom at 60. Those are the guys.
Yeah, that's a total live factor there.
It is. Right? Like, you've only had 2 chances to use him. And in the race for the Mayo Cup, the giant one, he's available in 65% of teams.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And you're trying to catch up in the big one, the $1,000 one?
Yeah, I'm in 7th. I need a week. I need to have a winner, and I need to have a winner no one else has.
And you don't have Fitz?
I don't have Fitz. No, I've used Fitz.
Okay.
So my choices are Rom, Ludwig, Brooks, Bryson, Goddard, Hatton, Wyndham Clark, Reed. So I could go with Hatton or Reed, I suppose. I like both those guys this week.
I'm going to go with Reed. But that a lot comes down to who I have available. But I'm going to go with Reed. But if I had Rom, I would take Rom this week. I wouldn't hold on to him for St. George's. I mean, we discussed Rom a little while ago. There's really nothing you can say bad about Rom, is that we think he's untested by Liv. But, I mean, Rom's pretty good.
He's not a bad player.
No. But if we were listing those guys that you had there, I would put Rom, Reed in that order, no matter who you had. Well, no, Fitz. I would put Fitz, Rom, Reed. That's what I would do, the top 3.
All right, so I think I'm going to do a coin flip between Reed and Goddard to see which way I want to go here for that particular
I would
team.
save Goddard because Goddard, you still have the playoffs with him. If you haven't used him yet, you still have the playoffs, and you still have him over in the Open Championship.
That's true. But then I can use Seb Straka at the Open Championship and win.
I mean, I'd rather use Seb Straka, TPC, River, whatever.
Well, I brought up this comp to Jeff on the show that he did. Looking back at it, do you think that there's any similarities between the type of approach you need to take here in PGA National based on that exposure, no trees, the wind can come and wreak havoc, and if you miss the fairway here, you're in the rough and basically cost you a stroke. You miss the fairway at PGA National, all of a sudden you're in the water and it's costing you strokes.
I think as far as the skill set, yes. I think as far as the scoring, no, because when you miss at PGA National, you make doubles. When you miss here, guys are just going to make bogeys. I mean, yes, there's going to be blow-up holes, but you're not going to hit the ball in the water somewhere and just automatically just chalk up a double. So the scoring will remain tighter. But overall, I think that the way that you need to manage your golf ball and not try to take on too much risk hole after hole after hole, because it'll just wear you out over 72 holes. I think that there's a lot to be said for that. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I think there's a lot of similarities, like the way you need to game plan for Harbor Town here and play in the wind and flight your golf ball.
Good news for Siwoo.
Yeah.
Cantlay, too. We didn't bring up Cantlay's name. Cantlay keeps popping up on every sort of model that I run here.
We kind of need Cantlay to be in a good mood come Monday, because that's the next board meeting and the vote for the new schedule and the press conference on Tuesday morning. So, like, hopefully Cantlay gives us like a nice backdoor top 10 and he leaves calm and he goes and he votes for something, whatever it is, to go forward, so we can actually like do something new on the PGA Tour. It'd be great.
So I brought up my driver issues that I've been having, and you were giving me tips. And I told you this offline, but I suppose I should share it to the people out there.
I think it's important that people, they check their equipment.
So couldn't figure out what was going on with my driver. I got back from Utah. I detached the head of it, and I've been using a demo club for a while now because my driver's on order. My driver and 5-wood are still on order. They're waiting for the special shaft to come in. The guy that did my fitting allowed me to bring the demo club with me. And I didn't take the head off when I went down. Probably should have. And I was like, oh, crap. I didn't want to break it, so I took it off on the way back. And I was like, I'm playing this at a 9-degree driver right now. Historically I've played a 10.5. It's like, I'm just going to move this up 2 notches to give myself a bit more loft, a bit more forgiveness that way, to kind of take some of the movement out of the ball. So I did that. And then since I've been back, I've hit maybe 1 of 72 fairways and lost 48 balls because I just have this super slice all of a sudden. And I was like, man, I must be coming so over the top. So I went to the sim before my round just to try to get some numbers on it, and actively was swinging in to out to just a draw swing. And even then, it was that block slice that I kept going on about. I was like, I don't know what's going on here. I can't close the face enough, and it was slicing so much that I've never seen anything like it in terms of how I've hit the ball. So it was really getting into my head. So I just put my driver away and just started hitting 5-wood off of every tee, even on par 5s. I was like, screw it. I'll keep the ball in play. I'm hitting this long enough. It's fine. So I went and talked to my coach the other day, and we went to the simulator to run the numbers on everything. And I was like, here's the problem I'm having. So I started hitting the ball, and up on the screen, there it is again. High, right, and slicing way out of bounds. And he took a look at the numbers, and he was like, this doesn't add up. Something is off here, because these numbers don't indicate a slice that bad. We see all the visuals. We're using TrackMan here. Something is wrong. He's like, because I forgot, I didn't bring any balls with me, so I was using the ball that was already there. He's like, this ball doesn't have any dimples left on it. That's probably what it is. So we switch balls, and it's still happening. And he asked me, have you done anything to the club? I was like, well, I adjusted the loft up just to get it back to what I was normally playing. He goes, oh, let me take a look at that. So he took a look at it. He didn't tell me because he didn't assume that I was going to adjust anything. He had given me a left-handed shaft for the club. So when I had adjusted it up to 10.5 degrees, I had actually lowered it to 7.5 degrees. And Keith, I'm not Bryson. I can't play a driver of that loft, as it turns out.
No, I mean, the moral of the story here, and I think it's good that you're telling people, because, everyone listens to this, they love their golf, is that when you do start to mess around with things, the golf's a game of opposites. People swing left and the ball ends up going right with a slice, right-handed golfer. And conversely, like you just said, I want to swing in to out, and that makes the ball move right to left. So if you start messing around with your equipment, please understand what you're doing. If you add more loft to the club, right, you have to close the face in order to do that. And you open the face to de-loft it. I mean, there's all these different opposites in the game, and you definitely go see your local PGA professional to do that. Otherwise, you're going to drive yourself nuts, because even if you had just came back and you had your shaft and you had the right club, but you had not paid attention when you put it in and you left it 2 degrees open, and you're like, man, I keep hitting the center of the face and I keep bleeding this thing off to the right or blocking it, you go mad, and then you never think about just actually checking the equipment. The equipment does matter.
And this was a telltale sign of why I bet Matt Fitzpatrick this week, is that, as people may remember, that he couldn't hit his driver and couldn't figure out why. And then 4 months later, he remembered he had put a weight into the top of his driver and forgot to take it out.
The guy who records every single shot in practice and in the game, right, in his tournaments, and he forgot that he had done something to one of his pieces of equipment. That's classic.
Well,
Probably one of golf's great ironies.
I felt like I had to tell people of what was going on with me. And remember, check your equipment. Sometimes it may not actually be your fault.
And it happens. Or if you start to see odd things happen and you don't have the type of driver head or 3-wood head where you get to adjust it or whatever, and crazy shots start happening. This happened to me. We talked about it in a tournament where the epoxy, because the head's glued on, if it doesn't have one of those adjusted torque wrenches in the screw, and like that can come loose. Like if you leave it in the trunk of your car and it's a 100-degree day for like 3 days in a row, then like that glue can loosen up, and then the collision with the ball, the head can start to open, and like different things can happen. So if you start to see some really odd shots that seem oddly consistent, then definitely check your equipment. Pro tip of the week.
So I guess my pro tip was going to be I've started to pull all my irons left, and I figure like I can go to the range and get this figured out. But mid-round, if that's happening, just everything left. And it's not like it's a hook left. It's a slight little draw like I'm trying to play, but everything is just being pulled. Am I just yanking down on it with my attack angle too hard?
Chances are yes. Or you might be getting into a situation where it'd be great. The first thing I would do is I'd check your ball position and your alignment. If you're out on the golf course, maybe your golf swing's not off. Maybe all of a sudden the ball's like moving forward and you're at the point in your path where the face is closing. Or maybe all of a sudden like you're just standing oddly. Golf can do that. One of the hardest tests in golf is aligning yourself for every shot. It's great when there's tee markers there, as long as the guy wasn't hung over that morning when he set them up and they're not all crooked, right? And even if they are straight, a lot of times the tee boxes are mowed in such a way that they point towards like bunkers and fairways, or, over time they move. Like I would start with, if you're doing something just like with the equipment, like check the basics first before you want to get into swing dynamics. Check the basics. Like if you keep pulling the ball, like are you just suddenly that day seeing your setup and it's off? Like that's where I would go first. Or like all of a sudden you're blocking a lot of shots. Well, maybe the ball's too far back. When all of a sudden the club comes in on a circular path. So if the ball starts moving back, the club is actually coming from the inside, and then like it'll start to shoot it more out to the right as a start line. And conversely, it starts to close as it comes around. If you have a pretty natural swing, if you have some sort of Jim Furyk move or whatever, then, see your local PGA professional. But check your fundamentals first. Don't just go right into like, hey, like I need to change my swing plane on the 7th hole. Like that's going to be pretty hard.
What I thought was happening, because it kept happening with my wedges, which it never has, and I just kept noticing like the beaver tails that I was taking pelts out of the ground. I was like, I got to be coming down on this too steep.
Making Hef jealous.
And it's closing my club face when I'm interacting with the turf. And it's pushing everything left. That was my first thought, but maybe that's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, sounds to me like, and what the number of swings that I've seen is that yours was more of a dynamic in swing move for that particular day than it would have been a ball position move, or maybe your alignment. But I don't know. I still would check the fundamentals first, and then after that, hey, if you just keep pulling it and all you need to do is get the ball around, you don't want to lose golf balls, then aim further right and pull it back to your target.
Oh, trust me, Keith, on the 14th hole, I tried that. You know where it went? Dead right into the woods.
Yeah. Then you hit the dreaded straight ball. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Do you have any questions for me this week?
Oh, on what is the eve of my national championship down here?
Oh,
week after your national championship?
You will appreciate the thumbnail for this show that really encapsulates that thought right there.
Oh boy. Well, we'll see where that goes. As for right now, here we go. True or false? Shinnecock is the best U.S. Open venue.
True.
Rate your wind game in golf on a scale of 1 to 10.
Versus like people of...
No, just you personally. Like when you go out on a windy day, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you have a great wind game when you play golf, or 1 being you have a terrible wind game.
I would say that I have a great wind game because I exclusively play in the wind.
Okay. Well, then what? 7.5, 8? You going 9.5? Where are you at?
Yeah, I'll go 7.5 for my wind game. As long as it's not too cold. I don't like playing in the cold.
Yeah, I don't play in the cold anymore. Winning score this week, over under 267.5. And I made that number up myself. I didn't go to Vegas yet. I checked earlier; it wasn't posted, but
so -3.5.
No, 2.5.
Minus 2.5. I'll say minus 3 is your winner. So I will go under
Okay.
that number.
You're going to go under. All right. When you think of the U.S. Open, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Thick rough.
All right. I think of Tiger's putt in 08.
I mean, I actually think about Shinnecock in 2018 and Phil hitting that ball while it was still moving.
Oh, yeah. God, did they screw that up? Unbelievable. Are you a conservative or an aggressive style of player?
I would say that I am an aggressive style of player. However, in the past year and a half, as I've dropped my handicap, I've become a far more conservative player.
To everyone listening, that's important.
But if you give me a chance to drive a green, I'm going to try to drive it.
I mean, I'm all for people getting their money's worth, but over time, if you want to continue to get better, taking on less risk overall is a good thing. Or playing to your strengths, mind you. Let's say somebody's really good at 50-yard pitches and they're a decent driver of the golf ball. If they're playing a short par 4, I say push the ball up there. If you're not good at those 50-yard pitches, then why not hit an iron off the green and hit a full wedge in? Play to your strengths.
Well, to that point, that's something that I've been doing more because I can't turn my driver at all to hit a draw. I just hit a cut. That's the shot that God blessed me with. But I can take out my 5-wood and just spin it around right to left if I want to. Almost like I mean, I don't want to compare myself to John Rahm here, but it's something you notice him do at a lot of these tournaments that if it's a dogleg right, he will fire with driver. If it's a dogleg left, he's clubbing down so he can make sure that he turns the ball over. Morikawa does the same thing too.
Has a lot to do with technology too. With the less spin of the golf ball and the less spin off the face, it's much tougher for the guys to manipulate the ball, especially with the driver, because the driver has so much club head speed. It's just tough to do. Kind of a modern thing. But
simply playing that shot, even though it's not going to go as far, has really benefited my scores rather than be like, well, maybe if I hit it over the trees and cut it back, it's going to work out for me. That doesn't really work all that often.
Not so much. No, it doesn't. What will the cut line be this week? So in 04 was +4, and in 18 it was +8.
I'll say +7.
+7. All right. I'm gonna split the difference. Go +6. I've always been curious about this one. Is Pat Mayo your real name?
Maybe.
All right. Come Sunday, who owns the U.S. Open trophy, Pat?
Matt Fitzpatrick.
I'm down with that. Fitz, 2-time U.S. Open champion. If that happens.
I feel like there's a lot of 2-time U.S. Open champions.
Andy North.
Brooks Koepka.
Yeah. Curtis Strange.
Bryson DeChambeau.
Oh. Yeah. I'm sure there's more.
And it's weird because some of them are just 2-time U.S. Open champions, and that's kind of it.
Lee Jansen. We said him earlier.
Oh, big lead.
There's another one.
Didn't even realize that one. But there are certain guys on certain paths that these are the style of courses that they are good at.
I mean, one last thing I'll say. Would you please look at U.S. Open leaderboards? The guys that play well at U.S. Opens play good at U.S. Opens. Proven by that point. Pat, if Matt Fitz wins, we'll both be happy. Take us out. I'll see you at Travelers.
When Xander wins, you're probably going to be happy. Rory is the other one with the immaculate U.S. Open form, just for reference. I will have my cheat sheet coming out on Wednesday evening, just before the live chat at 8 p.m. Eastern on Mayo Media Network. Me, Cam Stewart, and then your questions. We go over all of the final thoughts and news about the U.S. Open, and it's going to be a pretty fun hang. We'll have a recap on Thursday and the Cut Sweat on Friday, and I'll be releasing a special newsletter on Tuesday evening. If it's already come out and you're not subscribed, and you're watching the show right now, just click on the link. It's readable for free. Just join it for free. Boom. You can see all the data that Keith and I talked about during this show at the Rabbit Hole, which you can get for $1 this week at BetSportsGolf.com with code US Open. Thank you all for watching. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
Mayo Experience! Experience!